It's my pleasure to introduce David Jensen. If you've been to prior coin agendas and tokenizes, you'll know that. So I have Transform Ventures as an advisory, also includes my family office, Transform Capital, and also has a venture studio where I created, different projects through Transform Ventures and through Transform Studios in Bermuda. And one of the ones that I'm most passionate about is Open Carbon. So Open Carbon is something that David Jensen and I created a couple of years ago with the idea of being able to go and look how to tokenize the carbon credit and related markets. And the market, we were probably early, and actually a lot of the kind of early competitors that wanted to do it through let's call them shit coins, died out because you can't go and have a trusted blockchain backed B2B market to sell between projects and corporates if you're basically minting it on chain and then pumping and dumping it on Uniswap. So you need to have a sort of closed market that still has transparency. And that's what we built with Open Carbon. And we're now also bringing in some AI for additional kind of empowerment in this wave. And nice thing is all our early competitors are out of business. So it's sort of a new space. David, we stayed around because we just don't spend a lot of money. We just develop it very slowly and surely. We've got the platform now. Our friends at RWA actually helped us develop the back end. And David, the floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. I've got a microphone now, right? So look, building on what Michael said, we started this venture about a little over 2 years ago, seeing an opportunity to create a carbon marketplace enabled by NFTs in order for B2B trading. People have been purchasing and holding and retiring carbon credits for 15 years, but the marketplace or the market has become much more saturated and much more complicated in terms of being able to identify those assets, being able to track and trace their viability. Probably people, if you're not familiar with the space, but you may have heard of Verra, which is an NGO that's been around for 20 years or 18 years that started the process of certifying carbon credits. They had a huge blow up about 18 months ago when people that owned and held credits that they wanted to retire found out that the core asset, maybe it's a forest project in Brazil, didn't even exist, right? Or it had all been cut down. So that's one of the big challenges. Interestingly, in this past year's Climate Week in New York, there's also been just a seismic shift, in part because of some of the attitudes in the current administration around clean tech and climate change. Okay, fine. But overall, the market is still needs to be able to have intelligence about what it is that they're acquiring and holding. And more importantly, how can they be more proactive in being able to see out for opportunities? The other dimension is as in the last year, we also started working with a company called Earth in the UK, looking at how do you get to the end user, meaning the consumer. This is a B2B marketplace, but what are the implications for being able to help clients like an Amazon have more insight to where their customers are wanting them to be able to be carbon neutral, and be able to expose what they're actually doing in order to help change the climate situation and be more responsible. But what we wanted to talk about today is really about how do we create an AI engine built on top of this exchange for the low carbon economy. I mean, first, it's the world has carbon data, but they don't have intelligence around that carbon data. And a good example is again, not pointing fingers, but Verra and Gold Standard, who are those certifiers of these carbon assets, but not always have the right intelligence about where that carbon asset is. Also, just the idea that the carbon market is evolving, and we need, from a carbon exchange, traceability and infrastructure, into an AI platform that can predict and optimize and where carbon decisions can work across the supply chain. So if you are a large manufacturer and you're trying to figure out and optimize your supply chain from a sustainability perspective, yes, your treasury may be holding some carbon credit assets that you're going to use in order for compliance purposes, but is that really optimizing the supply chain? And then finally, just counting carbon and applying those carbon credits in order to expand their value is more about understanding the opportunities for new growth. So it also ties back to corporate strategies and where CFOs are ultimately responsible for being able to, help report and comply. So the problem is carbon data and credits are abundant, but insights are not. So we know that we've got billions of carbon measurement tools, but emissions remain static, siloed, and unactionable. We know that enterprises lack a predictive aspect to where their carbon credits are and how they can be applied more effectively and efficiently or retired. And so how can we provide guidance and insight, to that? And, from a regulatory perspective, really what I heard actually at Climate Week this past year, going into COP, is really about real-time carbon intelligence. Again, it goes back to the Verra example, but more importantly, these can be divvied up in much smaller ways and applied to being able to create a more sustainable supply chain in general. So what is an AI native platform combining environmental data, economic models, and machine learning in order to automate, make smarter business decisions around your sustainability efforts and your carbon efforts? So really, we started out actually last year looking at the opportunity around using AI for compliance. So again, seeing that we had folks that are transacting, acquiring the carbon assets for their retirement in order to meet their sustainability goals, but where beyond compliance can we go? So the three really areas of modules that we're now looking at that we're developing in terms of, kind of graphing and understanding the knowledge graphs of emissions data suppliers, and then the financial aspects to that. More predictive carbon models, and this is going to get into one of our partners around energy trading in a second. And then a sort of copilot where you have both generative AI and then agents that are doing this bidding for you. So the different opportunities are everything from carbon forecasting in a SaaS model or SDG data exchange, where you're using AI powered marketplaces to verify price, carbon trading, and sustainability data. This is again where I feel like some of the compliance, not the compliance, but the verifiers currently are falling down and disappointing the market. This sustainability copilot is using large language models in order to automate the processes in the reports. This gets into the compliance piece. But on the other side of that, using agents in order to enable sort of risk management and being able to identify price exposures, because we know the carbon markets can be very volatile, and also just to be able to ensure you're compliant. In terms of, this is getting back into what we're looking at in terms of this initial building on our compliance AI-enabled model in terms of predictive models. Launching the carbon copilot would be, we're looking at for next year. And then later next year is then expanding more into financial compliance. But wanted to talk a minute about a partner that Michael and I are now advisors to out of Europe, in which they really, the very simple idea is Robinhood for energy trading. As probably everybody knows, energy trading is a very complex, rarefied world, very difficult to penetrate. So how can you bring a retail perspective to it? And again, a lot of what I just went through is enabling the B2Bs to understand what they're acquiring, how they're going to meet their sustainability goals, maybe with a retail angle to it to understand what consumers are thinking they should be doing. But this actually starts to look at how we can take all of that data and what companies are actually purchasing and owning and holding from a carbon credit and offset perspective specifically, but more broadly, how they're doing planning and how you could then connect this into a play for energy market and trading. So what LUMIT is really doing is creating an entry point, an on-ramp in order to bring retail traders using and connecting basically crypto liquidity and real world energy markets. Can get into more of the details about the tokenization of that, but LUMIT's launching now in 27 different markets in Europe, meeting all the compliance requirements, and what Michael and I are doing, helping them look at how they can enter the US market, which is a bit more, we'll call it complicated. So I think in summary, really what we see is an opportunity to use AI in a broader way for companies to meet their sustainability goals, to be more predictive about where their energy consumptions and their sustainability needs are in their supply chain. And then also look at how in traditional energy trading can be, coupled into that and also bring it to a retail market. So I gave you 30 seconds. So that's it. Thank you so much.
Adjusting it, please.
Do you want to ask a question?
Yeah.
Go.
A question or two? Actually, say that again, Sheldon. In terms of open carbon core, right? We have some traction. In terms of ARR, it's limited. It's more about building relationships, like with Earth, where we're going and working with them as they now officially launch to go and their customers, meaning the corporates that need to actually hold credit so that they can then show the connection to the end consumer. So if it's McDonald's and they want to, and the consumers are saying, "Hey, repair, the oceans," they'll go and maybe get carbon capture technology and be able to get the offsets that come out of the carbon capture technology. So the round. Yes. So in terms of the round, around we are doing a $2 million round. We have portion of that that's already been fulfilled. Now with this AI component, what we're really trying to do is accelerate the transactions part on the exchange. We're also working, coming out of actually Climate Week, connected with folks that own 37,000 acres of oil sands land in Utah. And what they want to do is, because the extraction of oil from oil sands is involved and it takes investment, they were looking at how they can create a token for investment in order to extract the oil sands, trade it on open carbon, but then more importantly, the AI examples that just shared, where we can help them be more predictive and also to be able to do the compliance piece, where we also have a partner called Orbex that actually does, in essence, commodities, recycled commodities. And part of, in the oil sands, there's parts that can be actually quantified as recycled commodity, where you can then get a carbon credit. And so there'd be sort of three tokens, if you will, that we can help them with extracting out of these oil sands. So that's a partner where we're looking to how we will then go to market together, help them to, in essence, tokenize the real world assets, and then we'll use the exchange to trade them. Cool. Thank you so much.